Hey, shalom, shalom. This is Brother Kazaka, and I want to share a thought this morning. The Most High put on my heart, and the Black History Month. Since we're in Black History Month, and a lot of people are doing a lot of research on Black history. You'll find out that a lot of people don't really know the truth about the so-called white-black issue. And what it is that the so-called elite, the people of the elitist status, those the ones that make all the shots, the ones that profit, the 1%, as they call them, that profit off of the working class, they don't care. They don't give one damn about black or white. All they care about is keeping what they have. So what they will do is they will cause the Willie Lynch syndrome. Not only just does it affect so-called blacks, but it affects the working class people. So that is a part of the Willie Lynch syndrome, because the history is not told properly in this country. Okay. Every black person that came over into this part of the world didn't come over here as slaves, right? Every white person that came over to this part of the world didn't come over here as slave owners, right? As a matter of fact, a small percentage of the whites that came over here were slave owners, as well as there were a percentage of so-called blacks that were already here, right? And some that actually came over from the commission of the Queen of England, which is the history that they don't tell you about, that were never slaves in this country. They came over as a commission to set up colonies. It wasn't until the miscegenation laws were passed after the time of Bacon's rebellion that the status of black versus white was created to keep control for the 1% that was on the top that wanted to stay on the top. So people and one thing that a lot of people, working class people, which includes police officers, fire people, clerks, etc., people that working class people are not the elite people. They're working just like we're working. They're working for a living, right? But the elite will put us in position to continue to capitalize or to penalize our own working class people, so that the elite can continue to keep what they have on the top. And when we talk about elite, that includes those that are high officials in government office, those that make the rules and the regulations and the decisions. Those are that 1%, those people that are on the top. Okay, the laws that they pass to enforce is to keep us poor people, or keep us working class people, if you like that better, to keep us working class people as working class people, and to keep us, as they said, to keep the poor poorer and keep the rich richer, right? And so a lot of times we push a lot of our hatred and anger towards the wrong person, because a person's white. We mad at all white people, and you shouldn't be mad at all white people, because some white people are stupid just like some black people are stupid. They allow themselves to be a tool to oppress the people that are on their same level, right? Say, if you're a police officer, like I went to court yesterday, and the police officer thought he was doing something because he wrote me a ticket, right? Which the money don't go to him anyway, right? He gets paid from the government just like I do. He probably makes the same amount of money I make. I might make more than he makes, but he want to make a point because he has the ability and authority to write a ticket. So they'll do what they can do. They'll find what they can find. So just so they can be look good in the eyes of their master, because they actually are slaves too. Because a slave is just, if you are interested in knowing the truth about what a slave is, look in the dictionary, right? A slave is a servant. A servant is a person that works under somebody else for a contract, not only just simply just work for free. And even at that, you look at the so-called slave, they didn't work for free. They worked they were, they had room and board and food, right? So that's a servant. That's a servanthood. That's a servanthood, and it's the same thing as slavery. Now, don't get it confused. Don't get it twisted with some of the brutal stuff that some of the so-called slave masters did, because that's his history. You can't deny that. But the reality of the matter is, they weren't in business to be lynching their work staff all the time. The only purpose for lynching their working staff was because if they saw something getting out of hand and they wanted to turn away people that would rebel, they would make an example out of somebody. And corporate America does the same thing. You think because you work in corporate America that you're not on a plantation? You do something to break the rules and regulations of the country, and see if you don't get reprimanded for that. See if you don't get called into the manager's office and you get corrective, as they say, corrective action, right? The whip that used to be a whip is now a pen, right? So you're still getting whipped, but you're getting whipped with a pen, right? Same as with like football players. I remember someone mentioned about slavery is a choice. I think, who was that? Kanye West or whoever that was. But he's correct on this. Slavery is a choice, because slavery is when you sign a contract. Football players are slaves to those teams, to those owners, because those owners sign a contract and they say, I will pay you X amount of dollars, and so you have to do what I say do if you want your contract to remain intact, right? So the servanthood, the slavehood, if you look at Census bureaus, we got to stop allowing leaning on the school system to teach us the truth about history, and we got to get off of our do-nothings and get up and do something and do some research and find out the truth about history. For example, like I said, some of my Hebrew brothers and sisters think that I'm wrong when I say that every Israelite that came to this land of the United States of America wasn't a slave. As a matter of fact, some of them came in here where owners, were slave owners, and came as an elitist status. But during the time of the miscegenation laws, they lost the status because of that statistical creation of the white versus black thing that was promulgated by the Willie Lynch mentality or syndrome, to keep the whites against the blacks, the lights against the darks, the males against the females, etc. And we see that in today's society, right? It's just so ugly. But here's the thing. Those of you who are working class, who feel that you are getting justice by penalizing the people who are of your same status, this is your opportunity to make your change, because there's coming a day of judgment. The Most High is going to judge every deed, right? Every wicked deed that's done, everything that you've done that you think you call it justice, right? Just like they violate the laws and create their own laws. When you find the law, proof was in the pudding when I went to court. You find a law, and then they'll find some kind of loophole where they can say, well, that applies only when this doesn't apply. You call that justice? No. That's called tweaking the system so that it will work in your advantage, right? I'm not sure which one of the historians or one of the activists said this, but it may have been Jesse Jackson. But he said, when we learn the rules, they change it. And that's just what happened yesterday with me in court. When you learn the rules, they change it. But see, somebody said, well, brother, why'd you go there? You know you was going to lose. Okay. We as Israelites have a duty, right, to warn, right? So my presence in court, even though I really believe that I gave the benefit of the doubt that just maybe they might honor their law, but the prophet, and I told them before I left, I said, judgment's coming. It's going to start from the top down. I told them, I said, because y'all won't do right. The Most High put you in charge, and since you don't want to do right, judgment's going to come from the top down. As a matter of fact, you go in the book of Joel. The book of Joel tells you that judgment's going to come, right? The other piece is, I mentioned about Israelites. Not all Israelites were poor, okay? Or were brought over here as slaves, okay? Deuteronomy 30 is very clear. I mean, if you read Deuteronomy 30, you read Deuteronomy 28, and you get misled because you think all Israelites are supposed to be in slavery. But if you read Deuteronomy 30, it tells you that there would be in the lands where we're scattered, that there would be blessings and cursings, right? So some Israelites reap the blessings, and some Israelites reap the cursings, right? Okay, that's how you got. That's why how you were able to have some so-called blacks who are Israelites who actually were slave owners, who actually had people that was, and we see it. I'm telling you, the more I researched, looking at the census bureaus and looking at the early 1800s and so forth, primarily because that's where the records pretty much. Census pretty much starts. We don't know what happens prior to that unless you go and look at land records and you see that there were people that actually owned land when you look at different county records. So that's where you go. You go to your local county and you see, and then you look also in local newspapers, because you will see in newspapers people having properties and having auctions. I saw people in my family actually in the newspaper auctioning off property and different things when the loved one died. So every Israelite that's brought into the United States of America, the prophecy does not say that every Israelite had to be poor. Okay. So, and case in point too, you can look at Joseph when he was in Egypt. He wasn't poor. He was an Israelite in a captive land, but he wasn't poor. He was sold into slavery to get into Egypt, but eventually the Most High allowed him to be blessed. And so what I'm saying is that every Israelite is not going to be on the poor end of the curses. There's going to be some Israelites that's going to be on the blessed side. So we can't evangelize every Israelite thinking that every Israelite is poor. And so how do you reach out to the Israelites that got the blessing in the land of captivity? They ain't going to hear that gospel you preaching, because they're like, wow, they don't fit me. I must not be an Israelite. But the curses that the Most High said was the specific part about us being taken from our land and serving other deities whom our fathers have not known. Even the elite serve the Lord Jesus Christ. The Catholics and Protestants and Jehovah's Witnesses and Scientologists and etc. So just because you're rich and wealthy doesn't mean, oh, those curses don't fit me, I must not be an Israelite. No, dig a little deeper, right? And then too, also, you do something wrong, and you'll see, ask Bill Cosby, you do something wrong, and you make the elite people upset, they'll get you, and they'll show you that you really are an Israelite. You thought you was one of us, but you still one of them. So I just want you all to know that, be encouraged. It's Black History Month. Judgment is coming. It's coming soon. The Most High is giving those people who are on the oppressed side, or those who are leading the oppression. The prophecy said, as I close out, he that led into captivity shall go into captivity. So if you continue to lead people into captivity at the expense of them for the glorification of the 1% or the elite, the Most High is going to deal with you, right? Just because you Just because you're a police officer don't mean you got to cite everything that you could cite them for, because that's not integrity. The law is supposed to be protect and serve, right? Some things a person knowingly, willingly do, as a judge. And I'm going to say this too, and I'm going to close out for real. I didn't have a fair trial. It was only me, the officer, and the judge. There was no witnesses there. I'm from the government of Israel, and we have protocol. The judicial system has to have proper representation, right? Where was the proper representation? There wasn't no one there but the judge and the officer. So whatever he wanted to do, whatever he had in his mind to do, he could do it because he can have anybody to give account to. He's the judge. Okay? That's all I got, Shalom.